Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's me again, Mama T, aka Psychedelic Dreamer, aka the Tanya. Tanya Aaron's coming to you from Brisbane, Australia. I'm very tired. You can probably tell by the wrinkles and the bags under my eyes. Oh no, I'll never be a supermodel. Fortunately, I was never in the running for that particular pursuit, given that I'm a short, fat hobbit, or as my much beloved and worthy psychiatrist refers to me as a well-armoured Baudelaire type, bulked up by obesity, gifted to me by the Quetzalcoatl god via chocolate, and whichever god invented potato chips, hot potato chips, fries, people. But anyway, I'm not bothered by that. I'm a well-armoured, well-fed Baudelaire, and I like it that way. So I'm making this video. I went dancing last night and danced joyously and triumphantly in spite of my little biopsy on that problematic cancer site. It's not diagnosed as cancer yet, but it really needs to go. It's a horrible scaly thing that's been annoying me for a couple of years. So I'm quite sure it has got cancer, but I may be wrong. But anyway, it got biopsied yesterday, and I guess I'll hear in a week or two if it needs to come out, which will mean more scars, horrific scars to my back. But fat, freckled and fair in a zombie apocalypse in the subtropics has its drawbacks, people. But anyway, I went dancing last night in triumphant, joyful wildness, and I've been commenting for some time on the change of culture that I'm witnessing in my favourite dance space at the Live Y Bar and Casino, and I'm quite certain that change of culture will be at other clubs and dance spaces too. I'm calling this current paradigm, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it's quite lovely, but I'm going to call it the sweetening. Anyone who knows me knows I have a very sweet tooth. I love sugar, I love cake, I love biscuits, I love English puddings. So if anyone out there can make me a nice bread and butter pudding, or a trifle, or even a baked custard or rice pudding, or any of those sort of delicious British fare that we have a lot in New Zealand too, so it's comfort food from my childhood too, knows the way to my, well, I'm not that shallow or superficial, people. I mean, food isn't the way to my heart, but they'll know how to keep me well satiated and contented with a full pudding belly, right? But no, I don't want a partner who's a feeder. I had one, and all he would do was feed me and then accuse me of being fat, ugly and stupid. So that was a toxic relationship that had to go. And mind you, that was many years ago now, and created 2 beautiful children, and one of which is out there in the wild, estranged but living her best life, which is how I train my daughters to be wild and carefree and independent, and to live their best life, even though it costs me my relationship with my daughter. I mean, that is the price of freedom. To thine own self be true, even if it means estrangement. But anyway, the sweetening occurred again last night. I took out my nose ring and put in my diamond ring, and now my nose is a bit sore from replacing my ring. So, and that's why I'm picking at it. Anyway, I digress. The sweetening occurred again last night. The regulars were, some of them hovering around me. One regular that has traditionally kept his distance. There was no toxicity. The awful man I referred to in a previous video wasn't there. Thank goodness, because I was ready for some kind of physical or psychic attack from that entity, because I think it's dibbock ridden. But no, I had a lovely night. As I said, one of the regulars that normally keeps his distance actually sat close to me and danced nearby and around me. But he wasn't threatening, he was fine, and we all had a lovely time. And another regular came late in the evening and cavorted with me. He said, "I'm naughty." I think he's a little bit into BDSM, to be honest. He likes to role play me spanking him, and I'm not a dominatrix, and I have no interest in BDSM, but I'm a powerful woman in my core, and I've got a great sense of humour, and so I play along occasionally, just for the sheer mischief of it. So at one point because I was sitting down on these little stools they have, he was pretending to sit on my lap, and I was pretending to scratch his thighs. And he must have got a little bit excited, because he actually grabbed my hand to stop me from actually scratching him. And I wasn't conscious of scratching him. I don't think I was. I think I was role playing, but I might have accidentally, scratched a little bit. I can be a little bit aggressive like that, but I don't think I did. I'm pretty sure I didn't. But maybe he just sort of put his hand down to make a show that he's got me under control. Whatever. But anyway, nice man. He's intelligent, and he's spiritual. So potentially a nice friend. But of course, none of them ever asked me out or date me, and I'm okay with that. I go there. That is my space where I go to dance and stress release and have a wild old time and go home. So I'm not bothered by the fact that I haven't found a partnership in that space in 12 years. I'm really not bothered by it. I made peace with that some years ago. But we had a lovely time, this man and I, and another regular who I've known for many years, because we used to dance together at Irish Murphy's, who's a gentleman. His name is Len. He's Asian. He's petite in build, but he's a lovely man. He's always been very kind to me, and he came up earlier in the evening when he saw I was there, and had a little dance and a little chat, and he said, "I'm going off to Irish Murphy's." And I said to him, because I hate that pub for what they did to me. I will never forgive them. But I realise that other people still like to go to that venue. It's like, I'm a grown up, like, hello. So he said to me, "I'm off to Irish Murphy's." And I said, "Okay, you go, you have a good time." And I just went, he knows the history and why I don't like that pub. Anyway, he disappeared for a while, about an hour or so, and he came back. And then he came and danced with me again. And he's just so sweet, and he was dancing, and then he was like pulling me into the dance. And he was just so powerful and strong, even though he's a slight build person. I said to him, "Oh, Len, you're deceptively strong." I think he got a little bit offended. Like, I wasn't meaning to offend him, because I'm actually short. I'm only 5'3", and people often think I'm taller than I am, because I'm bulked up with my fat, and I have this enormous attitude, enormous expanse of personality, and a big aura, and I seem larger than I am, to my detriment at times. So anyway, and I think he's just a little bit shorter than me, but dainty build, and very elegant, and has always been a gentleman. So I think very highly of him. So anyway, we danced for a while, and then after quite a while, I mean, he left earlier than me. He came up to me and said, "I'm leaving now," and gave me a lovely, firm embrace, really strong embrace. And so I planted a big kiss on his cheek, because we've known each other for years, through that music scene. And I said, you get home safe, and it's lovely to see you again and dance with you. And yes, lovely man. And he's always been very respectful, but also a bit cautious of me, which I understand, because back in the day, I used to, tribal mosh and whirling dervish and flick off men all at the same time as dancing like a Sufi mystic on acid, right? And because of my hypervigilance, creepy men would dive bomb onto me and they used to even jump on my back, and I would just, in my very high heels in those days, I can't wear my high heels anymore, it's a tragedy, but in those days I'd be very, very high boots, and I'd be flicking them off at the same time as twirling around. And then often people would say, "How did you even know that person was going to jump on you?" And I went, instinct, but it is kind of an intuition you develop when you're in a very busy, crowded music scene and with a lot of drunk and dangerous men, right? Self-preservation is key when you're a woman, and that did go bad. Like, I did get attacked a couple of times there. So, but anyway, the sweetening, it's lovely to see, but it's also a tad confronting and alarming to me, because it was never really like that before. Or maybe I was so guarded and so self-protective that I didn't imagine it. It really was quite fraught to go out for many, many years. Anyway, the sweetening has come into play. And so I was thinking about that when I got up this morning, and I was still in my nightie, and I was standing in the kitchen making a cup of tea. And my neighbour and friend from down the road, Peter, came along with little Coco for our customary cuddle. Once a day we have a cuddle. I have a cuddle with little Coco. And Coco loves me and I love her, and it's all very sweet. So I hear him call out, and I said, "Oh, hang on a minute. I'm still in my nightie. I'll just get my dressing gown." It's a daggy old nightie. Like, normally I go out in my nightie, but I just thought this morning I felt like perhaps I'll put a dress. I mean, it's not see-through or anything, but I just decided to be modest this morning, put a dressing gown on. And so went out, and so I tell Peter that I was out last night dancing, which he knows I customarily do on a Friday night. And there was a lot of glare coming off the skyline behind his head. So I was like blinking my eyes, and it really hurt. My eyes are still a bit sore, actually, if the truth be known. It was a very intense, I'll show you, very intense light in the skyline. And behind me, like, the sky looks grey and silvery, and it's now raining. But there's a real bright, hitting the back of my retinas like zzz, like electric shocks. So I'm going to have to run inside because it's raining enough that I'm going to get wet. And Charlie's up there. Charlie! She's going to get wet too. Oh well, I'm sure she'll be fine. Anyway, what was I saying? I digress. Oh yes, so Peter comes along with little Coco. We're cuddling, and I said we went dancing last night. I had a very lovely time. He's looking at me, you know. So I think he's a little bit intrigued by me or a little bit sweet on me, but like nothing weird, you know. He's got a partner. They don't live together anymore, but they're still, you know, they're still kind of together. It's hard to explain. I don't understand it all myself, quite frankly. But anyway, so so I proceed to tell him, I said, I had this wonderful night last night. I said, it's the sweetening. He said, oh, what do you mean? I said, the men are very, very sweet now. He said, oh, I said, another one actually came and danced with me and held my hand. I said, this is the second time. I didn't go out last weekend because I was too ill. I said, but this is the second time in recent weeks that a man is holding my hand, right? And I said, but, you know, I just smiled and nodded because I said, I find it odd, but I said, it's a harmless thing, wanting to hold your hand. It's sweet and romantic and childlike. The sweetening, the regression. So anyway, oh God, I've still got mascara on my eyeballs. Oh. Anyway, so I said to Peter, I said, it's like men in general in our society now, and this is a very small sample. These are just people that I'm seeing when I go out dancing, right? Small sample of society. But I said, men in general, I said, seem to be much more docile and cute and sweet. I said, and that has never happened before. I mean, before I went back dancing last April, I've noticed over the course of the last 8 months, the men in general are becoming more and more tender, like tenderized meat. Oh, that sounds awful, doesn't it? But you know what I mean, like there's a softening and a sweetening in their the way they approach me now and in their attitude towards me. And I'm sure it will not just be me, but with other women as well. And it's delightful. Like I'm appreciating it, not being made to feel like I'm just, you know, a hole with a goal or something to be jumped on or attacked or dishonoured and disrespected. I had years of that horror, absolute horror and trauma, which was why I would arc up about it naturally. But now they come and they're really romantic and sweet. Now bear in mind, I have been manifesting this reality for decades. I have been praying, actively praying for a loving, loyal, faithful, honouring, kind, generous, intelligent, fun, with a great sense of humour, respectful, communicative, effectively and respectfully and courteously and regularly. Answer the fucking phone to start with. Now, I haven't manifested a partner yet, don't get me wrong, but I can see all my magic that I have internalized and worked for decades. I'm nearly 58 years old, is starting to unfurl and blossom like one of those flowers, buds that you buy I think they're chrysanthemum flowers. They come all bound up, you know, and then you put them in boiling water and they open up and they bloom right in front of your eyes in the space of seconds, right? This blooming under boiling hot water, this beautiful floral teas, herbal and floral teas. That is to me magical. And we've all been put in hot water like frogs in a boiling pot. And our governments and Big Pharma and other corporate entities, who are disgusting in my opinion, have turned the heat up and had us simmering and fearful and seething and not knowing which way to jump, because we're all in this together. As a global population, we're all in this together. And there's no real escape, right? It is what it is. And the trauma inflicted on our population, well, I already had my complex and cumulative traumas from a prejudicial childhood and years of strangulations and sexual assaults and awfulness from men. So, that came as a backhanded gift in a way, because it gave me the gift of discernment, of having the courage of my convictions, and of questioning everything. And I mean everything. I'm even questioning the sweetening, because it seems to be the current zeitgeist, and it's lovely and I'm enjoying it. I'm just enjoying it for what it is, the loveliness that is unfurling like a flower in a teapot. And of course, what I'm thinking is, when does the other shoe fall? Because there's been decades of that in my life too. When I thought men that came into my life were sweet and kind and loving and decent men, and in a very short space of time it turned putrid. And not always through any fault of my own, although I welcomed and invited those men into my life, so I bear responsibility for not discerning better, or being sucked in by a pretty face or a vapid, empty, superficial smile. Or, as did happen when I was younger, getting dick struck, thinking that sex and passion equated to love, which it certainly didn't, and how they behaved towards me was unloving and cruel and sadistic and abusive. So you see what I'm saying here now. The sweetening is beautiful to watch and admirable, and a goal that I've long aspired to, but I can't trust in it. Not yet. And as I explained to Peter knows I've been very much against the current narrative from the very beginning, and we fought vociferously about it many, many times, because he's a scientist and he wanted to trust the science. I'm not going to even comment on that. Just anywho. So I said to him, Peter, there's the sweetening again last night, at the Live Wire Bar. I said the men were lovely, really lovely. He goes, oh, but that's so lovely, Tanya. I said, it is lovely and I'm enjoying it, but I'm also very alarmed at the almost sudden change. It's been coming. I've been observing it building in the last 8 months. So it's really only in the last 6 weeks to 2 months that I've really observed it, the sweetening, the docility and the childlike wonder and awe of men around me, looking at me as a mother figure, which is alarming. There was one younger man in his 40s when I first started coming back to the casino after the mandates were released. That was just mindlessly stupid what they did to us. But anyway, I was when I was first coming back, this particular younger man became a bit of a pest. Actually, he was freaking me out. He was sweet and effusive and trying to seduce me on some level or groom me on some level. But he kept referring to me as like asking me, "Are you a mother of children?" And it was just so freaking weird. Like, what? But I now understand what was behind his poorly chosen words and questioning of my identity, right? And I do refer to myself as Mama T because I am a mother. I do know a little bit about the world, having lived in it for 58 years and lived through extraordinarily fraught, dangerous experiences that were life-threatening. I have earned the right to call myself Mama T. I have grown wise. Not always. I still can be a bit naive and I still can make mistakes when it comes to matters of the heart. But I've become wise to the kind of machinations of our leaders and our representatives and our ghastly, evil, perverted, shilling celebrities as well, many of whom are now dropping like flies. Can't imagine what they're dropping like flies of, though, can you? Sudden adult deaths on a scale that is never before happened on such a large scale. I don't know what all these shillers are dropping from, but it is what it is. It's horrific. It's horrific, and I take no delight in it, trust me. But anyway, I said to Peter, the sweetening, and I'm alarmed by the docility and the childlike natures of men that are coming out to dance now. And he looked at me, he said, "Well, it's not like you'll ever be docile, Tanya." No, I won't. No, I will never be completely docile. I will never be tamed. I will never be complicit in my own demise. Although I was when I accepted that Johnson & Johnson TVT tape into my body. I was complicit in my own death, which is imminent. Well, hopefully not too imminent. I've lived with that thing in my body for 15 years, so maybe I can carry on a little bit longer if I'm careful with my health. But I was complicit in that, and I was complicit when I invited men into my life who dared to put their hands around my throat and choke the breath out of me until I came very close to dying. And I was complicit in the colonoscopies and the surgeries which made me very ill and were life-threatening. Well, the gallbladder surgery where they were actively so abusive at pre-admission that I did feel triggered and threatened before I even lay my body out on their table. And I was complicit in that because having constant gallbladder attacks for 3 years, and yes, it was dragged out for 3 years, people, was extraordinarily painful and terrifying. Even though they pass reasonably quickly, they're agonizing and terrifying. So I was complicit in trying to save my own life and keep my body functioning to not quite optimum capacity, because I'm missing a couple of organs now, a uterus and a gallbladder. But I did what I could. I complied. So, but I will not be complicit in any further violations of my body autonomy. I'm fully conscious that that means that the ultimate outcome is my death. And I'm okay with that. Death comes to us all eventually. So when my friend Peter down the road teased me about, you'll never be docile, Tanya. Not from this, I won't. I won't be docile down from this. I will continue to fight against it and advocate against it until the day I die of whatever condition I already have had foisted upon me by the toxicity and the bodily systemic failure to cope with a poisoning alien device inserted into my bladder, which did mean that I had continence in the last 15 years, and so I can be grateful for that. But it is slowly killing me now. No, I won't be docile. And any man that comes into my life and chooses me for a partner, if that will ever happen, because it hasn't happened in almost 58 years, will have to accept and respect that I am not a docile, fey creature of complicity and complacency. Like a deer caught in headlights. I am Mamati, guided by my spirit animal, my wolf, and perhaps by, as I named my younger daughter, the Lioness of God, Ariella, guided by a lion spirit animal as well. Although being in Aries, I carry the energy of the ram, which likes to butt its head against things and butt and fight its way through to hold its way and get its way. Doesn't always work for Aries people because we tend to be a bit impulsive and don't always have the full facts at hand. So that is a negative trait of Aries people. But no, I'm definitely a woman who runs with the wolves and always have been, as a consequence of my prejudicial childhood and complex trauma. So the leader of the pack, of a wolf pack, usually walks at the back of a long file, single file of the wolves when they are on the move or travelling across country. And from that perspective in the back, they can see any potential danger. And the greatest warriors in the pack, the young and more vigorous and harder fighters, usually travel somewhere, third or fourth in the line, and the weaker are out at the front or in the middle. So I learnt that recently, and I found that interesting. To truly lead, you need to observe human nature. You need to understand human nature. You need to know that your enemies will come to you as smiling assassins and sometimes very sweet, and will wear masks and may not even confront you directly. And more often it will come as quite a shock. It may even be someone that you trusted completely and intimately, like an intimate partner, a mother, a father, a brother or sister, a close friend. And by the gods, did I experience the most heinous and horrific abuse from my own family of origin. And each and every time it was like a renewed shock, because one's mind cannot comprehend that someone who brought you into existence, physically if not spiritually, could be so malicious as to perniciously try to destroy you and kill you, financially, physically, morally, ethically, reputationally, even spiritually. There were spells in my mother's pantry when I cleared her house out. So I know well the consequences of the sweetening when they bite you on your back when you least suspect it. My sweet neighbour saying to me, "You will never be docile." No, to be docile for me is to sign my own death warrant in my own blood. I just simply will not, cannot bring myself to do that or be that. So, but I'm a fair and reasonable human being, and I've seen some horrific things done to me personally, but indeed across all of our society now. And it's astonishing is what it is. Deeply astonishing and frightening and also humbling. But I had a lovely time last night, and I will continue to enjoy my nights out. And I even requested from the technician that works on the with the DJs and with the band, if he could turn on the fan for the audience last night, because it's just so hot and I was lathered in sweat, and I'm fanning myself with my own fan as much as I could, but I'm lathered in sweat. And I just explained to him I have health issues and I'm not coping with the heat. I'm really not, you know. I go out quite happily and joyfully and enjoy myself and go with the flow, but it was just too hot last night. It really was. And it was strange because it wasn't very busy for most, the first few hours, most of the evening. It was relatively quiet, so it should have been cooler in the club, but I don't know. It's just, maybe it's because I'm physically weakened with my my health at the moment that I'm feeling hotter than normal. But I tell you what though, after he put the fan on me, I was so thrilled and grateful and happy. And the other dancers around me, I said, look what we've got. We've got a fan on. It's wonderful. And I fought hard for it. I asked for it nicely. And they were laughing, and everyone really appreciated that. Just to make life a little bit more comfortable, because we're dancing as fast as we can, wildly and joyfully. But it's hard work. It's hard exercise, you know. So, yeah, I'm amazed by you know, how lovely my male dancers and regulars in that scene are treating me in recent months, and I value and appreciate that. You know, it takes courage to go out every weekend, especially when I'm not really feeling very well a lot of the time, you know, with my bladder, or sometimes my mental health isn't all that great, depending on what exposure I've had to dark and depressing news stories or videos. Other times it's my lungs that are playing up, not COVID related, you know, with my bronchitis and my asthma. And I continuously, unless I'm very, very ill or I think I've got something contagious, I continuously push myself out and dance and live as joyously as I can. As the doctor at the emergency department said to me, you just keep dancing, Tanya, keep living your best life, because they know, the doctors, they all know how precarious each human life is right now on our planet, and how precious and how fragile each life is. I mean, it's always been precious and fragile and precarious, but now more than ever, now more than in any other epoch, with this toxification and gene altering, we're seeing the aftershocks of that, and they are shocking, deeply shocking. But perhaps what I'm seeing with the sweetening is a consequence of the global trauma, is that human beings are now seeking real, authentic connections, love, based on mutual respect and trust and kindness, honour and integrity, and perhaps even in my case I might find a partner who is capable of being faithful and loyal and trustworthy. That's certainly always been my aspiration and manifestation. And it's really a pity that the potential for that to arise in my life has only come about as a consequence of this global trauma. Like sweeping out the ugliness and violence and abuse and toxicity with a giant brush. And I can only hope that the one that I loved with all my heart is also changing along with the time, the zeitgeist. And I am changing too. I'm not docile, but I'm willing to allow the possibility that there might be real love out there for me, out in the multiverse, as well as here on solid ground in 3D reality on planet Earth, in Diamond Street, diamonds on the soles of my shoes. It's ironic, isn't it? The little cosmic jokes that the Holy One plays with me. Really quite ironic, but cute, very cute. So A diamond is made by carbon that has endured many, many changes and pressures under the earth, and I'm certainly worthy of identifying as a kind of diamond. Because I've been under attack for decades and I still come up fighting for human rights, determination, for body autonomy, for integrity, for freedom, and for the truest, most authentic, most sincere, sweet, honouring love. If I'm going to invite a human man into my life, I will accept nothing less than that. And hopefully in the future, I will be able to discern accurately who has my best interests at heart, who has my front and my back at all times, and stands at my side as an equal, as a loving, caring, honouring, devoted partner. That's my little spell and manifestation, people. As we say in Hebrew, Be'ezrat Hashem, by the will of God. Amen. V'salah. So good afternoon from sacred space, and rejoice and delight in the sweetening, and long may it continue. Goodbye for now.